Hi everyone. Hello everyone. My name is Kristina. I like to talk about pop culture. And I'm filming this intro after I edited the video, which I feel like is usual YouTube fare, like you film and then you do your intro and outro. Basically what happened, I had tried to do like something new and it didn't work out the way that I thought it was going to, but it's salvageable. It just needs a new intro. So this video that you're about to watch is me going over the astrology around BTS and the Grammys to try to guess if BTS is going to win a Grammy on that day or not. I'm not going to tell you what the prediction is. You're going to have to watch the video. I know it's long. I'm sorry. And so here are a couple disclaimers. Okay, disclaimer number 1. I am not a professional astrologer. I'm not a professional astrologer. This is not professional astrology advice or a very serious video. I use astrology in my day-to-day life to literally predict when I should probably upload these videos. So like today, March 4th, when you're seeing this video, was a good day for me to upload. So I uploaded. The knowledge I use is just stuff that I've absorbed through the years of like just being interested in it and stuff. So disclaimer number 2, do not come for me if I predict it wrong. Do not come for me if I predict it wrong. I did the best I could. And again, not a professional video, not a professional astrologer. Third thing, please don't tweet other astrologers and ask them, can you confirm this? Did she do good? I don't particularly care. This was for fun, which is why I said I'm not a professional astrologer. You can ask professional astrologers to look at their own charts and make their own predictions about this, but I would prefer it if you didn't particularly quote tweet my video and add it somebody to call me out. Okay, the astrology community is very intense and very judgmental, and it makes me anxious, and that's a big reason why I don't really do content like this. But I am an army. This is really important to me, and BTS definitely have an astrologer on the team, so I figured I'd take a look at the organization of planets on March 14th to predict. So other thing too, you are going to see me pop up once in a while in this video, mostly because I don't think YouTube particularly likes having like a just a video that's just screen. So you'll see me pop up to clarify things as they come up, and I think they should. So social media is in the description. Let's get on with it. Yeah, so today we're using astrology to guess whether or not BTS is going to win this Grammy or not. So first things first, let's talk before we even look at the charts, right? So this is just the Grammys. So before we get into any actual fun, like astrology stuff, let's get into the nominations. And this part is not scripted. I scripted my chart analysis, but I did not script my nomination analysis, right? So I have a horse in this game, right? I am an army, so I ideally would like BTS to win this Grammy. It would also be really historic for BTS to win this Grammy because they would be the first K-pop group and first Korean artist to win a Grammy in a pop category, right? There have been Korean artists before that won in classical music in the classical categories, but never for the pop categories. And so this would be a big move, not just for BTS for winning that and like kind of kicking open the door of the Grammys and Western awards, but it would also be really big for the Grammys itself too, because it's showing that it's willing to move with the industry as the industry is moving to less just English dominated, English language songs, I should say. So here are the nominees. This is the only Grammy BTS is nominated for this year. Next year, I'm expecting them to be in every category, even the ones they don't qualify for, because why not, right? So Best Pop Duo Group Performance, right? They are the only group on this list. I mean, unless if you count Undia, right? Because there's a couple people there. But like, as far as like actual like group that does group stuff, BTS is the only group here, right? The rest of them are all collaborations. I'm only looking at the charts for BTS and Dynamite, so I'm not going to look at everyone's charts here. I do actually think, just looking without saying anything else, I do think they have a solid chance here. My worries are two of Scooter Braun's artists are on here, right? Last year, summer of 2020, the old CEO of the Grammys, Debbie something, she came out and she said the Grammys, and she did this whole expose on the Grammys, and she was like, the Grammys are a boys club. Scooter Braun has a lot of influence over the Grammys, right? And so it's particularly those Grammy committees, right? So there is this thing where with the pop, and I don't know if it's specifically this category that it happens, but definitely for the general field and definitely with a lot in the pop field, there are some Grammys that go through a committee before they get nominated. So what happens is you go through your first round of Grammy voting, right? Everyone votes, and then the committee will get the top 20 songs that Grammy voting members voted for, and from there, they'll pick their 5 nominations or 8 nominations, depending on the category, right? This is how The Weeknd was shut out, because those committees decided not to nominate The Weeknd. And here's the thing, right? The committees are not committed to only putting in songs from the top 10, right? They're committed to any of those 20 songs. So they could nominate song if, you have the first song is the one that was voted for the most of all the Grammy voting members, and song 20 is the song that was voted for the least. They could do songs 20, 13, 7, 4, and 5. They don't have to do the top 5 songs, and that is a little ridiculous to me, in that why are you having a round of voting if you're just going to throw a committee in there and have the committee decide anyways? So to me, the Grammys need to get rid of the committees, and we'll talk about that a little later. Pop to a group, I'm not sure if this is a committee category. It might be. And again, committees are rumored to have been very influenced by Scooter Braun, who manages both Justin Bieber and Ariana Grande. Hi, so let me clarify this. This is the first thing I'm clarifying. So the CEO of the Grammys released allegations, or not even allegations. The CEO of the Grammys, the old CEO of the Grammys, Deborah Dugan, she was fired last March, so roughly a year ago, right? She was let go from the Grammys, right? And the day after she was let go, she posted this big, long document of all of these things that she said the Grammys organization was like on the inside. She was specifically brought in to fix some of these things, but then when she decided to start fixing them, there were people like, well, we didn't want all of that. She alleged because none of it's been proven in court. However, I think she's telling the truth. She alleged that the Grammys were a boys' club, that there was a lot of sexual harassment, sexual assault that was going on, and, as I say later, and I'll probably say again because I'm just going to insert this and leave. And she also said that Scooter Braun was too involved in this committee process, right? So, not only, as I explained the committees and going forward, right? Basically, she alleged that Scooter Braun was too involved in the committees. The committees were corrupt. I think there's no way to have a committee and have it not be corrupt. With something like this, there's zero reason to have a committee in between the 2 rounds of voting. Again, just nominate the top 8 most voted and then do another round of voting. This is not difficult. This is not difficult. The Grammy committees are only for the general field, so that's Record of the Year, Album of the Year, Song of the Year, Best New Artist, which means a lot, right? So to just speak about Best New Artist, right? In 2018, for the 2019 ceremony, BTS had submitted for Best New Artist, but didn't get it. And then it came out before the ceremony that BTS were not qualified for Best New Artist because they already had station in the United States, right? That doesn't make any sense according to the current rules of Best New Artist, and Best New Artist is one of those categories that changes every year, right? And literally the year after BTS submitted and then was kicked out, I don't want to say was kicked out. This is speculation, but what I think might have happened is they might have been voted up to the committee, and the committee decided, no, they can't get Best New Artist, they're too big for Best New Artist. Or they have too much of a stance in the U.S. music industry, which didn't make any sense because 2018 was the first year they got number 1 on the top 200. And I think that what happened with Mic Drop and Love Yourself Her charted, I want to say like number 9 or number 7, and Mic Drop was on the Hot 100 the year before 2018. So I think they used that to disqualify BTS because they're racist. Because they are racist. I say it a little later in this section of the video. The Grammys are racist. It's racist to sit there and say BTS can't be Best New Artist. I think also at the time, you had to have under a certain number of songs. And BTS had way over that because they've been around since 2013, right? In 2019, the updates to Best New Artist was, you just have to have a breakout year. It doesn't even have to be under a certain amount of songs. You just have to have a breakout year. So it definitely didn't qualify BTS anymore because they already had their breakout year in 2018. So we were all angry about that. So I would just like to add, going forward, when you see the analysis, I don't talk about the Grammys owing BTS a Grammy, but like now that I'm thinking about it, like they definitely do owe BTS a Grammy. And just the other committee fields, if you're interested, this is definitely a video topic I can go into, but I probably won't until the next Grammy ceremony, when nominations are released. Other committees, right? We have American Roots, Regional Roots, Children's Music, Classical Contemporary, Instrumental / New Age, Country, so Country. The Country category has a committee, of course. Dance, Electronic Music, Gospel / CMM, Jazz, Latin, Music, Video, Film. Whoever was on that music video committee and didn't nominate Dynamite, I'm under your bed. Rap, Rock, R&B, World Music Nomination Review Committees. Okay, so the World Music Nomination Committee, very interesting, because that's also a changing category. I would not be surprised if we start to see foreign groups. I don't even want to just say K-pop, but like I would not be surprised if they open the world music thing to include world pop music, and suddenly like BTS is nominated every time and they keep just win Grammys, but it's only in that one category. But we'll see. Again, I will probably make another Grammys video, but I won't make it until the nominations for the 2022 ceremony come out. So we will see, right? As far as songs, right? I think Exile doesn't have a chance. Sorry, Taylor fans. The only reason I think Exile doesn't have a chance is because it wasn't a single, and the album Folklore was much more impactful as a whole album than just this one song, right? Whereas if you look at Dynamite was its own thing, just its own song, and was impactful as its own song. As was Rain on Me, Intentions, and Un Dia, right? Intentions, it better not be Intentions. Anyone else, it's like, even like, it just can't be Intentions. That album doesn't deserve it. That song is okay. It's probably the best one on that Justin Bieber album, but like, it's not great. It's not better than Dynamite. It's not better than Exile. It's not better than Rain on Me. It's not better than Un Dia. Un Dia, I don't think Un Dia is gonna get it because it is actually the only foreign language song. Which is bad, right? The Grammys are racist. We know this. But like, I'm just straight up. It is the only, because Dynamite's in English, it is the only foreign language song. So it's really between Rain on Me and Dynamite. And I think if I was a Grammy voter, I'd be voting for Dynamite because Dynamite was more fun. Dynamite was more impactful. Rain on Me has a lot of meaning. Ariana Grande and Lady Gaga collaborating is really big. This idea of like accepting the bad times and like I'd rather be dry, but at least I've been alive. During 2020, that's important, right? But like, Dynamite was also a song that was specifically supposed to like uplift spirits and be like, listen, like, life is dynamite, like, let's have some fun. Yeah, everything sucks now, but let's still have some fun and look on the bright side. So I really think it's between Dynamite and Rain on Me. So that being said, let's take a look at some charts. All right, so this chart I'm looking at right here, right? I'm just on astro.com. Free chart selection, probably the best free astrology resource online. And so all of I'm not a professional astrologer, so I don't really pay for astro software because it's not something that I need. This is my chart that I have for BTS. So let me explain what I did with this chart. I messed with the birth time because I'm an Aries and I'm just allowed to break the rules. That's how it works. The birth time of this chart is the time that the sun was highest in the sky in Seoul, South Korea, right? On BTS's debut day, which was June 13th, 2013. The reason I chose when the sun was highest in the sky instead of midnight or instead of 6 p.m. KST, 6 p.m. I think would be more indicative of No More Dreams birth chart instead of BTS's birth chart overall. Again, this entire day from when they woke up to when they went to sleep was the day that they debuted it to the world, right? It wasn't just 6 p.m. And also the sun, I know, okay, sun sign astrology gets shit on a lot, right? Which is fine, but that's where we all start. And also, like, listen, putting the sun on the top of the chart, or when the sun is highest in the sky, that's when it's on top of the MC, right? The midhaven, right? The midhaven is about like your career, like who you are to the public, like public reputation, notoriety, stuff like that, right? It's about that, right? The sun in astrology is your life force, vitality, where you thrive, right? And like, think about it before you come over here and say blah, 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 blah. Think about it. The reason that there is life on Earth is because the sun exists. And some other things, right? But if we had the ocean and all that, like, and no sun, we wouldn't have oxygen, and we wouldn't have plants that photosynthesize the carbon dioxide in the air. Like, the sun is a very important part of life on Earth. So if I want to highlight something in a chart, or I want to see where the sun's light goes, right? I'm going to pick where the sun is highest in the sky, especially on a day like June 13th, 2013, for a group like BTS, because I want to look at where they thrive in their best possibility, right? So doing that puts the sun in Gemini, and their Gemini stellium in the 10th house, right? And gives them a Virgo rising. Is that an actual method of astrology? No. Again, I am in Aries. Saturn is in fall in Aries. I can break the rules. I'm also a Libra rising, so I can't really break the rules all that much, but like I can skirt them. And also, like, because the sun is, you know, your life force, your vitality, and BTS is the career of these 7 men and a lot of other people who help them, like their producers, their makeup artists, their stylists, like, you know, there's a lot of people that they organize. I want to know, and because the Grammys are a major career milestone and goal for them, right? I want to put the sun on top of their MC. I want to know, okay, like when they thrive, when they are alive and thriving in their career, what am I looking at here? And so that's why I put midday instead of midnight or 6 p.m. The other thing too I like about this chart, too, the Virgo rising. So BTS we don't know rising signs for any of the individuals in BTS. One day though, one day we will. But from what we know, there were at least 3 Virgos. And if we're going to honestly go, 2 Pisces too. In the, see this, the first 7th axis, there's at least 3 Virgos and 2 Pisces, right? The Virgos are RM and Jungkook. RM is the leader of the group, and Jungkook, when they started, was the center, right? So this group was very much led by their Virgos. And then Suga has a Virgo moon, right? And Suga in the beginning really wrote a lot of, like, they had Tomorrow is a really big song. That was written in their first year under this chart. And you know what? So the emotional core of BTS is also in Virgo. Everyone's kind of the emotional core. But in the beginning, when they were born, the emotional core, which I would argue would be Suga in his lyric writing and songwriting, was all in Virgo. And then again, Suga, Pisces sun. And then J-Hope has a Pisces stellium. And that would be in their 7th house right here with relationships. J-Hope, I mean, you know, they all kind of, it's if you know BTS, you know what I'm talking about. And then V's Capricorn stellium in the 5th house. He's the most artistically adventurous. He's the one that's trying new things. Like, come on, you know, Libra, Jimin's Libra stuff is all, and Scorpio stuff is all here. Like, it just makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Seokjin, Sagittarius sun, backbone of BTS. Jungkook's Leo moon is right here with armies. This chart, BTS is very much represented by their Virgo, so I like having their Virgo ascendant here. The other thing too, I just want to note out, their ascendant is at 23 degrees Virgo. This chart is in whole sign houses because it's easier to read, especially when you have such a late degree ascendant. But their ascendant is at 23 degrees Virgo, right? And so there are 7 degrees between Virgo and being a Libra rising for them, right? That to me, think about it. Like, you need to, I like to look at astrology and then apply to the real world, right? BTS, when they debuted it, right, with No More Dream, they were a hip-hop boy band yelling about society and how society wanted didn't allow kids to dream. And was too harsh on young people and too harsh on students. And that's something that they've taken with them throughout their career, right? And also, 7 is a real big number. 7's a big number for BTS because there's 7 of them. For me, those 7 degrees to Libra, like, that's very indicative of the communication gap that they kind of have, right? So in the beginning, when they were just aiming at Korea, right, like that was jarring. And a lot of people had to push through that jarring stuff in order to be like, but wait, there's something really worth it here. And a lot of people did. The other thing too, on the other side over here, right, over here, there's that communication gap because they don't sing in English. They sing in Korean. And so there's this effort you need to make to close those last 7 degrees so you can get to their artistic meanings, to their art. And I'm highlighting Libra here because Libra is ruled by Venus, and I also, like, I would say that art, in analysis of art, is the Libra side of Venus over the Taurus side of Venus. But, like, you know what? Having a second house, like, it makes a lot of sense. The thing, I would say the biggest thing now for anyone getting into BTS right now in 2021 would be, because you know what, we have translations of a lot of stuff, so it's not that hard to get through the looks or the jarringness, and it's not that hard to get through the language barrier. I would say the thing that you have to wade through is 7 degrees of content, because they have so much content, you know, from so many albums to their SoundCloud stuff to stuff they upload on YouTube and not SoundCloud to their solo work to Bon Voyage and In the Soup and Run BTS and all of these variety shows they've been on, right? Like, it would take, they released an article recently that said they had over like 1,100 hours of content, which is crazy. And that's video content. That's not music. Those aren't music videos. Like, that's like variety, like Run BTS and The Soup, Bon Voyage, American Hustle Life. Like, that's that type of stuff. So I think that this rising sign is very indicative of who they are. Okay. Now that we've justified the rising sign and the birth time for BTS, this chart is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is in their 11th house. This is Mercury right here. Say hi, Mercury. You know what? I'm not even going to say that. So usually for the 11th house, it's like friends, acquaintances, people you meet through work or whatever, right? For a group like BTS, the 11th house is fans and fandom. Very much. Their fandom is represented by the 11th house. Mercury in the 11th house, first of all, means that, well, having your chart ruler in the 11th house and that chart ruler be Mercury means that they are oriented towards communicating with fans. And that is also very true in the way that they use social media to connect with people, especially in the beginning. They were always active on Twitter before anybody else is active on Twitter. It's really funny, right? If you look at groups like EXO or Blackpink, you'll see that their Twitter accounts were made in 2017 after BTS won Top Social Artist. So they didn't have Twitter accounts before, you know, BTS were awarded for that. But BTS has had the Twitter account for a while, right? They used Twitter to communicate with fans. They were one of the first adopters of VLive, the app that their label now owns. They were one of the early adopters of VLive to do their own type of variety content, right? Now they have Weverse, which is their own social media platform specifically designed for them to communicate and comment on Army's posts, right? Since the 11th house is fans and fandom, I just want to say that Army's, their fans in this chart are represented by the moon, because the Cancer is their 11th house, right? So the moon is right here in their Leo 12th house. So, I mean, Armies are loud and obnoxious. We know this. Hi, me again. I just want to clarify something. So I am about to describe how armies act in BTS's chart according to the moon. And I say armies are loud and obnoxious. But when I filmed that part, I filmed it before the German radio thing got really bad. So if you don't know, there was a German radio host that said really racist remarks about BTS because they covered Coldplay. Which is, it. You know what? Out of all the things, out of all the places to be like anti-BTS, because of Coldplay, really? Here's the thing: armies are loud. Armies are in Leo in BTS's chart. They are loud, and sometimes they are annoying, but they will always fight for what's right, and they will always make sure that our boys get what they deserve, right? So when you have a radio host that's online saying terrible things about BTS, they are well within their rights to kick up a fuss. I definitely don't want to get that confused. As of the filming of this video, of this portion of the video, I'm filming this on March 1st. As of the filming of this portion of the video, that radio host is still not fired. He's still on the air even after he said racist things about BTS, among all the anti-Asian sentiment that's been rising worldwide, among all the hate crimes that we have been seeing. That's terrible, and that dude should not have a job anymore at that radio station. He should definitely be gone. So yeah, just to clarify, I do not mean armies will kick up a fuss when they need to for all the right reasons, okay? We know this. Armies are very much a Leo in this chart. Now, there's also like a birth chart for when armies were named Army. We're not going over that today, but in this chart, armies are represented by the moon. Moon in Leo, 12th house. 12th house, armies are uncontrollable, right? You very much have to keep BTS and army separate. And also the 12th house is kind of like the next house before you level up. It's about beyond, it's about transition. And armies are the ones that help BTS transform to the next level. And that is also very representative in that, like, a lot of BTS's success is about the fans banding together and saying, we need to get this group of guys through because they're saying something really important and they're really helping us or comforting us, and we need to make sure that they're popular. And then also in the meantime, you know, what armies are doing, the 11th house thing of like subverting traditional institutions, subverting traditional, you know, all that other fun stuff. So the 12th house is the 4th house from the 8th house, right? And so this is a little like derivative, but like 8th house is about investments and money invested into you. So for armies to be the foundation of BTS's investments that get invested into them, like armies spend a lot of money. The other thing I want to say too, right? If you look, their 2nd and 9th houses are ruled by Venus, which is right there in the 11th house, ruled by that moon, right? So their art and their philosophy of art and music and everything, that's how they make money. Because 2nd house is money, 9th house is philosophy kind of stuff, right? And Venus is, you know, it makes sense. It just makes sense. BTS's 10th house stellium, right? So here we go, right? 10th house is career, public notoriety, reputation stuff, right? This is very much what your career is, right? It is also in Gemini, Gemini is ruled by Mercury again. Mercury, again, is in the 11th house, ruled by armies in the 12th, right? So do you see how that kind of works? So it's really like them and their career are all geared towards the same thing, right? Which is right here. And then again, like army, the moon in the 12th is ruled by the sun in the 10th, right? So even armies are following kind of BTS's career moves. So BTS we're basically just two people following, or two groups following each other, and nobody knows what's going on. Although arguably the sun is a stronger luminary than the moon is, because the moon gets its light because it reflects the sun. So this is really like this. So I would say that like this, Mercury is in charge, but second of the ship is the sun. But basically what this chart says to me, right, and that stellium of the sun, Mars, and Jupiter, right, that kind of combination of planets cohabiting the same sign, it's very much like life, vitality, direction, and expansion, which is fun. Again, very representative of what they are. And so just a couple of extra things to note. BTS's Mars at 9 degrees Gemini, so they will be going through a Mars return on March 19th, which is 5 days after the Grammy ceremony. So that'll be reflected when we go over both charts together to see if they're going to receive a Grammy. It should be a really good shot, a good injection of energy into their career, no matter what happens. Like it could have nothing to do with the Grammys at all, right? But whatever happens on or around March 19th, they will be having an injection of energy into their 10th house. Especially also as Mars keeps moving past the sun and past Jupiter, right? They'll be very energetic. They'll be very like goal oriented towards whatever goals they have next for their career. They will also have Jupiter trine Jupiter at some point this year, because Jupiter right now is in Aquarius, and it'll move. They'll have it twice, actually. So they'll have it once as Jupiter goes into Pisces, because they have such a late degree Jupiter. And then when Jupiter backs out of Pisces, and then again in 2022 when Jupiter goes back into Pisces. That's just a lot of expanding, right? So you know what? Like, I think 2021 into 2022, this year is a really good year for them to do a really big project again. Hi, I'm back again just for a couple more things. 2 things about BTS's chart that I didn't mention there that I just want to mention here. 1, BTS is also going through a Saturn square Saturn transit, and will be for the next roughly 3 years. The way I like to think about Saturn square Saturn is you have to think about it in a context of like, what would a 7-year-old to 8-year-old kid be going through right now? Because that's what it essentially is, right? And I think that's really useful when thinking about Saturn. When you turn 7-ish, you go through your first Saturn square, right? 7-year-olds, homework gets harder. They want to be a little bit more independent, but they can't really be because, you know, blah, blah, blah. They're not into, you know, the super, like, young kiddie stuff anymore. You know, you're in, like, 2nd grade, like, so now you're learning to, like, multiply or whatever, right? I don't even know what they teach kids in school anyway. The point, more responsibility. A Saturn square is about getting more responsibility, right? So for BTS to be going through their group Saturn square, it's more responsibility. We've seen part of that. Part of that is how they've done their album Beat, right? They were the ones that organized that artistically, from what songs were on there, how many songs would be on there, how was the photo shoot going to work, what was the concept going to be, what was the title track going to be, right? Like, they filmed the music video themselves, right? So part of that, they're gaining more responsibility of that part, but it could also very much be possible that they gain more responsibility over a group of people, because we're talking about Aquarius. For them, it's 6th house Aquarius, so it's about day-to-day life, literally their job, not career, but your job, like what they do day-to-day. The other thing I want to note too, that is going to get people very angry. There have been a couple times this past award season, definitely like right after Saturn went into Aquarius. I want to say it definitely happened in their mama acceptance, in one of their mama's acceptance speeches, because you know how it goes, they're on and off stage all the time at the award shows. One of the mama acceptance speeches, and then again at a different show, RM had said in English, right? And it's important because when RM says anything, if RM is at a Korean show and he starts saying things in English, it's because he knows he has a large international audience and he wants us to understand something, right? At those shows, he said something along the lines of, every artist here today put a lot of effort into their performances, so please give it a chance, right? Now, BTS come from an industry that did not want anything to do with them, and really only want things to do with them now that they're big everywhere, right? But other than that, like in 2016, they didn't have dressing rooms at the music shows, like they were cut from shows all the time, and now, you know, they're big hot shots, now everyone's tripping over themselves to get BTS on their show. And BTS smartly only really give time to things that give like a real performance and a chance for them to perform for armies, or things that they really want to go on. I think RM and part of the responsibility of the group is going to be this up level of, we don't just represent ourselves in putting out good art, that is included, but we are also representative of an entire industry, an entire corner of a global music industry that we're leading into new territory. And I think part of this Saturn square is going to be them embracing that. So we'll see. A Grammy could very, very much be part of the leveled up of responsibility, right? Because it's one thing to be nominated, right? It's another thing to win it and now be part of this class of people that have won Grammys, and for you to be the first K-pop group. And people are going to ask you, how did you do it? Right? And you're going to need to be responsible with that information. And you're also going to need to it's kind of forced on them, right? Arguably, if you were asking me an army, I would say that they shouldn't necessarily take on all of the responsibility to be industry, not just leaders for themselves, but industry leaders, to be like, okay, like, yeah, there's us, but now we need to set the example for everybody else so that we can lead the rest of them on. I would say maybe don't do that, because it's a lot of people. And right now the K-pop world is going through, or has just gone through, or is continuing to go through, I don't know what'll happen these next 4 days between when I'm filming this and when you see the video. Right now the K-pop world is going through this huge bullying scandal. And a ton of K-pop just got taken off of Spotify because the Kakao M and Spotify didn't re-sign, right? Like, it's a lot of responsibility. I feel like that is part of their Saturn square. Okay, next, this is Dynamite's chart. So this is Dynamite's chart on the inside, right here in the blue, and then BTS's birth chart on the outside, right? I just want to do a couple of quick notes on this chart, because I think that this existence of Dynamite's chart is proof that they have an astrologer somewhere on their team doing this stuff for them and saying, yes, you should release on this date. Okay, first things with Dynamite. Sagittarius is the ascendant. chart ruler. And so chart ruler is Jupiter. Jupiter in 2021, if you remember, we had this mess going on in Capricorn. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, is the planet of luck. Both Jupiter and Saturn are karma related, and Saturn can also, we'll talk about Saturn rewarding a little later in this video, but Jupiter kind of sitting there with Saturn and Pluto, right? So Pluto's transformation, Saturn is discipline and restriction, Pluto is expansion, right? BTS knew what they needed to do for Dynamite, and they did it in their second house of resources and money and stuff. So you know what, like this I was gonna point, this is very blown up, right? This did a lot of blowing up, and it did, right? Like it did, right? The other thing before I talk about what Dynamite did, right? BTS were also having a Venus return on the release of Dynamite, and the moon had crossed over their ascendant that day. And actually, now that I'm looking at it, didn't write this, but their ascendant and the MC, the midhaven of Dynamite, are also matched up, right? Which is really crazy to me. Again, not a they definitely had somebody that looked up this stuff to decide, yes, release Dynamite on this day. If I was looking to receive something, if I was looking to have a gift or be gifted or be rewarded for something, I would also like to release it on my Venus return and when the moon crosses my ascendant. Now, your moon crosses your ascendant once a month because that's how the moon works, right? It's not something anybody really looks at, but as far as like receiving things, like in manifestation, the moon can be a really important part of that too, right? And so is Jupiter, right? Jupiter, Venus, and the moon are the planets I would look towards for easy manifestation, right? Saturn is the one I would look forward to for like permanent manifestation. If you were trying to manifest something, right? If I were looking to receive an award for something that was my career, I would absolutely match it up like this. Are you kidding me? Their ascendant is on top of Dynamite's career notoriety, and like the 10th house is where you would put rewards, right? So not only does BTS have a 10th house stellium normally, right? Like, and no, BTS's 10th house stellium is in this 7th house of relationships, right? So like whatever relationships they've cultivated will end up giving them this award, right? Like this is the chart. Like this is what I would do to get a reward for a song that I wanted to get a reward for, right? Now Dynamite's already been rewarded heavily by Korean award shows, right? But if you're going for something specific that you need a lot of energy for and a lot of good energy for, this chart has a lot of good energy for BTS, right? And again, that was their first song to go number 1 on the Hot 100. It was number 1 for 3 weeks. It was on the radio all the time over here, right? Like they very much, not only was that on the radio all the time over here too, it was huge in their home country too. It was huge all over the world. Like this was the song. This was their first truly like global hit, right? Like all their other songs are global hits too, but this is the one that really like everyone agreed on, right? No one could really say that this song was bad. It sucks that it is in English. That's represented by this Aries here in the 5th house, because Chiron in Aries in Dynamite's 5th house, right? The art of Dynamite kind of hurts a little bit because it's not in their home language, but like otherwise this is an amazing chart, right? Hello, back again. I just want to say before I start talking about this, I say multiple times that the Grammys start at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. They do not. They start at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So I misspeak there. So I just want to clear. Grammys, March 14th, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The chart that you see though is the 5 p.m. chart. You might be able to see it. The chart is correct though. I just misspeak. So just note the Grammys are actually at 5 p.m. I say 6 p.m. that I'm misspeaking there. It's at 5 p.m. But the chart you look at in my analysis is still the same because the chart is the same because I drew the chart up for 5 p.m. I'm just can't speak. So that was BTS's birth chart and then Dynamite's birth chart. And so now let's talk about the Grammys 2021, which are happening in LA, March 14th at 6. It starts at 6 p.m., right? So this chart is when we will start to learn who won Grammys in these categories, right? If I knew the exact time the Grammys would be announcing pop duo group, that would be the time I put in here. But honestly, like, it's not gonna, the only thing that would change is this ascendant right here, and the ascendant at 6 p.m. on March 14th is at 0 degrees Virgo. The only way that ascendant would move into Libra is if they're like, and this one, I apologize, this one's not in whole sign houses, but the ascendant is at 0 degrees, so it doesn't really matter here. The chart would show the same anyways. The only way that the ascendant would actually be in Libra is if they announce that award, like, in hours 3 and 4 of that award show, right? I don't think, like, they'll do it in the first 2 hours. So first thing first, it's very important. Also a Virgo rising. So BTS in this chart are represented by Mercury. Also, and this chart is also represented by Mercury. I will not put BTS's chart, we'll do that next. I'm just going to talk purely about the Grammys. Chart ruler is Mercury. They're at 0 degrees Virgo for this award ceremony, right? Mercury is late degree Aquarius in their 6th house. And also, there's also, if you draw the line right on the 4th, 10th axis, there is so much emphasis at the start of the chart, right? And specifically on their day-to-day functions. I'm calling the 6th house in this chart, since it's an award ceremony and not a person, a utility. How useful is this to the day-to-day of rewarding musicians in the industry? Their relationships with musicians in the industry, and their investments, right? Who is invested in them? Who is invested in this, right? And so it's really all here. And then you have a little bit about the art of the Grammys, being transformative, being ripped up and transformed by Pluto. And then you also have Uranus in the 9th house, really like putting pressure, what the Grammys actually stand for. And then you have some 10th house activity, which we will talk about later. But there's a big emphasis on this side of the chart. Mercury is right in the center of it all. And that's their chart ruler, right? And again, Mercury is about communication, right? And it's a couple degrees away. It's a couple degrees away from Pisces, but we will get there. So let's talk about this 6th house stellium, first of all, right? Before we get anywhere else. So Mercury's in the 6th house. It is cohabiting with Jupiter and Saturn, who are now 10 degrees apart, thank God, because we just spent like the entirety of 2020 of Jupiter and Saturn playing ping pong with each other. But right now, they're 10 degrees apart. Big, deep breath. Nothing is in retrograde. Nothing's in retrograde. So we don't have to worry about any of that. What this 6th house stellium in Aquarius means to me is that there's very much an emphasis on the usefulness or utility of the Grammys. How useful? If the Grammys were a tool, how useful would it be, right? Having Saturn there is very much like, what are you supposed to do, right? Having Jupiter there is, how can you do it bigger and better? How can you include more into this? And having Mercury there is, how do you communicate what you do, how useful you are, right? Having it in Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, right? So Saturn is in the 6th house here. So the 6th house is ruled by the 6th house. So very much, are the Grammys useful anymore? What was I going to say? And also Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, right? But it's very much about what is best for the collective. Aquariuses are humanitarians. They don't act like it, but they're really humanitarians, and they feel a lot, and they want to do best for the group, for the collective. So this 6th house stellium in Aquarius to me indicates that there is a chance for the Grammys to do what's better for the collective. Now, who is that collective? That's represented by the 7th house. Just before I get to the 7th house, the Mercury is 2 degrees away from the descendant. So the ascendant is you, the descendant is how people see you, relationships, the other side, beginning of the 7th house, right? And so that's why it's involved with the relationship Grammys have with this artist and voters and vendors, and it's double this because of that 7th house stellium, right? So the 7th house stellium, 7th house is Pisces. Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, right? So this whole stellium is ruled by Jupiter in the 6th. So again, that's where, like, how can you expand these relationships to make you actually, to fix your utility, right? Because there is an argument to say that the Grammys aren't useful anymore because they nominate the same artists. They leave out artists that were very impactful and had big years, like this year with The Weeknd, right? How are you still useful to us, right? And they do have a chance to expand because Pisces is also just as expansive as Aquarius. So how do you expand your utility to include more people, right? And then so for this stellium, you have the sun, you have Venus, and you have Neptune, right? Venus and Neptune chilling together, and they are 1 degree apart, right? So the day before, there would have been the Venus-Neptune conjunction, right? They are 1 degree apart, right? That is, first of all, March 13th, make some wishes for yourself, because holy shit, right? But, like, that's a really dreamy, like, beautiful combination as far as, like, making art, as far as giving things, realizing dreams to people who have these dreams, right, is a really good chance to be inclusive, right? Venus, I like to think, is an inclusive planet, right? As long as she's comfortable and she's very nice and pretty and, like, getting loved on, like, she's good, right? So, and Neptune is about dreams. So, like, if you have Venus and Neptune chilling together, like, you know what? Like, let's find some ways to include people. Let's love on some people. You know, let's realize some dreams and be loving to people that we maybe have not been loving to before, right? Sun, again, life force. It's there. It's lighting up that Venus-Neptune. Venus and the sun are 3 degrees from each other, and will just continue to be getting closer and closer. I think they go exact on March 25th-ish. So that's another, Venus-Sun is always a good day to also manifest. So these planets all very close to each other. You know what? Like it is time to expand, first of all, because we're in Pisces, and it's time to start expanding on your dreams as an institution, and because this is all in the 7th house, on the other people's dreams, on the artists you have a relationship with. How can you extend that relationship, fix and amend those relationships, and be better in the future? Other things to note, Moon, Chiron, and the 8th, right here. 8th house is about investments. Again, there is going to be some tension or some hurt with the Grammys and money in some of their maybe sponsors or investors that year. Because the moon is there, and the moon is the ruler of the 11th house, I imagine it's going to have to do with fans, people watching, or the voting black. Because there's a lot of Grammy voters, right? So they could also, like, 11th house is just big groups, right? So they could also be the 11th house. And it could be that people invested in the outcomes to this also feel kind of hurt. The moon and Chiron are separated. They're separated apart from each other, but there can also be kind of some bruises, I feel like, that could get pushed on that day. And I just want to remind you guys that armies are also the moon, right? So throughout all of this, armies are the moon, because that's where they're represented in BTS's chart, right? So for armies, right, if you're an army watching this video, expect that day to be emotional, because and to be kind of raw, and like for you to be like anxious the whole day, because Chiron is like you're hurt, the wounded healer essentially, right? So it's going to be rough, but ideally, but it'll be fine. It'll be fine, because the moon is just going to continue to move away from it, and so we will be good. We'll be fine that day, but it is going to be stressful. And now let's move on to the good stuff. So this is the synastry chart between BTS's birth chart, which is the blue on the inside, and the Grammys chart, which is the red on the outside. They are both Virgo risings, which means they are represented by Mercury in each other's charts. So BTS in the Grammys chart is represented by this Mercury in Aquarius, and the Grammys in BTS's birth chart is represented by Mercury in the 11th, right? Now, when you have the same chart ruler, even if you find somebody who shares a rising sign with you, or like if I'm a Libra rising, so if you're a Libra rising and you meet a Taurus rising, or you're, you know, and they share a ruling planet, essentially your goal, not necessarily your goals, but your mindset and the way things you like things laid out, those are kind of the same. Even though there are different like planets all over the place and you have different planetary placements, your path, your goals, the things that you kind of see and lay out kind of work the same way. The emphasis on the 6th and 11th, the way that I would interpret this, right, BTS have supporters in the Grammys somewhere, right? Somewhere in this organization, there are a lot of BTS supporters, right? For BTS's chart, I would interpret this as the Grammys want, or it's easy for the Grammys to be useful to BTS. That's how I would interpret that, right? And again, Dynamite's chart ruler is Jupiter. So Jupiter is in the 10th, career for BTS, and in the 6th, right? So again, like, it's very easy for the Grammys to expand their usefulness using Dynamite. Do you see where I'm going with this? BTS is coming on a Mars return. So I spoke about a little bit about how they're going to get energy, kind of career energy, kind of put into their Mars in this chart rules the 3rd house and the 8th house. So 3rd house is like siblings, neighborhood, people around you. Like, if the 9th house, and it's like opposite the 9th house. So if the 9th house is like your philosophy and that you spread out to people, your 3rd house is like the people that you keep kind of really close to you and the things you keep close to you, right? And then the 8th house is investment, right? So Mars ruling those houses, to me, really indicates, I don't know, it just indicates energy being pumped, not just into the 10th house, but to those houses too. In that career is a focus. It is very possible that the thing that energizes BTS's career during this Mars return is winning this Grammy. And they could win this Grammy and they could go, okay, this is great, but we want to win a Grammy for a Korean language album next. And then that's their new career goal, right? Mars return doesn't need to be new career goal here, but it could be. Or they could lose and the Mars is like, okay, well, next time we're going to make an album so good, you can't ignore us anymore. Also, the Grammy Saturn is trying to Mars it to BTS's Mars. BTS's Mars is at 9 degrees. Saturn will also be at 9 degrees Aquarius that day. Traditionally, Saturn and Mars are malefics, so they restrict things. They're not necessarily positive planets. However, we've come to more know Saturn and Mars in modern times in a little bit more positive light. It's a little bit more complicated than that. Saturn rewards dedication, right? If you want a long-term goal, if you have a long-term goal or a long-term thing that you want, and you want it to really be permanent, you would work with Saturn, right? Jupiter and Venus, it's like, okay, you know what? Like, I want a new car. Jupiter or Venus, maybe the moon, right? I want to have a long-lasting career in social media. That's Saturn. And we're still working in the 6th, 10th here. So again, utility, career. Utility, career. And listen, as far as dedication, if we're going to talk about being dedicated and being rewarded for your dedication, BTS did what they needed to do for Dynamite. Now, I am not the all-seeing, like, dealer out of karma, but, like, if it were up to me, BTS did what they needed to do. They did a ton of promo. They did a ton of good promo. They talked to the right people. They did the radio thing. Like, they did what they needed to do. So I don't necessarily see any reason why this trine is positive energy between these two planets. They're feeding into each other, right? So, you know what? Like, Saturn rewarding that energy and dedication and direction of Mars is very possible there. Mars putting energy into the, like, okay, we gotta, like, buckle down and do this. Or, like, Mars putting energy into, or, like, Mars redirecting the victory to being like, okay, but we can do more, we can do better. Like, let's use this energy to just keep doing great things. It could also be that. I don't see any reason why that trine would indicate a no. Like, that doesn't say no to me. Especially since the North Node is also in that 10th house. I'm just going to re-explain the North Node right now because I don't like the way I explained it before. So, the North Node, I'm going to use the dragon explanation. People say that the top of the node is the dragon's head, or the North Node is the dragon's head, and the South Node is the dragon's tail. Things expand towards the North Node, and things restrict on the South Node, right? The North Node in the 10th house Gemini is putting emphasis on the Mars end of things. So the discipline of Saturn is pointing towards that Mars North Node. Thanks. It's not a no. It's not a no. So if Grammys want to be useful and want to be relevant, I would say rewarding the biggest band in the world would probably make you pretty relevant and pretty useful in recognizing when somebody has made accomplishments, when a song has been as accomplished as Dynamite, right? And BTS has done Grammys museums, and I think Grammys, the organization, want this as much as BTS does. And again, I think that there are fans in the voting block because of how Mercury works. As I look at this chart with just what I've said before, I think it is a yes, that there is a good chance, knock on wood, don't come at me if I'm wrong, that there is a good chance that BTS win this Grammy and get rewarded for the work that they've done with Dynamite, especially because of Dynamite's chart ruler being in the 6th house. The only thing, so now negatives, right? We have this stellium in the 7th of relationships square this going on in the 10th house, in BTS's 10th house. Squaring is you take action, or you're forced to take action. So we have Sun, Neptune, Venus square Sun and Jupiter. So the forced realization of dreams, the expanded dreams, shedding light on dreams. Venus can also be a material gift too, and Venus is about art. So the, like, literally taking action on realizing your dreams about art, right? And if we bring the houses on, so those are just the planets. If we bring the houses on, taking action in your relationships regarding your career, expanding your career relationships, shedding light on your career relationships and dreams, stuff like that. And then the last thing, again, I just want to emphasize this going on right here, okay? The moon is right on top of BTS's Uranus in the 8th house, right? So the moon, remember, represents armies. And Chiron is also chilling in the area. He's around the corner. Uranus likes to rock the boat. So no matter what the outcome is, right, there is going to be some boat rocking. It is going to be challenged, and it's going to be rebellious. Uranus is very rebellious. It's a rebellious planet. Whatever happens that day, right? Army's reaction is going to be, it's going to kind of feel like you're pressing a bruise and you're uncomfortable and you just want to know. Uranus is chaotic. Uranus can expand things. It can contract things. It can have things come up out of left field. Whatever happens that day, the fandom will have a big reaction. That's what I will say. And of course, if they win, of course they will. If they lose, of course they will. It's just going to be a big reaction that day. It is going to affect BTS's investments, probably for the better. I don't really see for the worse because it's moon Uranus. I don't really see for the worse. And BTS will probably hear about it. I can't really tell if they're going to perform here. Where would we put performances? Libra, I guess. There isn't really a house of performances, but I mean, Venus would be about performance. Mercury would be about performance. So we have 6th and 7th house, Venus and Mercury. I don't know if there'll be a performance. Again, it would be useful if BTS performed at the Grammys. It would bring in more viewers for them. Literally, like, I'm not even lying. Like, it would bring in more viewers for them. But you know how that goes. I've been seeing Grammys commercials, and they haven't been in the Grammy commercials, and I don't know if that's just because, like, they haven't announced actual performers yet, and they're just playing random music that they got the rights to. But especially because the Weeknd dropout, like, there's no reason for them not to have a performance. It would be stupid. And again, the question for the Grammys is, are you useful? Are you useful? So, alright, so that is the outro. Thank you for watching this video. If you didn't catch it or I didn't say it clear enough, I think, according to the astrology, that BTS has a really, really good chance. BTS has a good chance of winning Pop Duo Group this year. So, again, thank you for watching. Please comment and yell at me for my bad astrology. Tell me what you're doing on that new moon. Let me know what you think. If you want me to do a follow-up on this video, I will. After the Grammys. I will probably end up doing a follow-up anyways because I want to review the Grammys overall. I just did this now. I had the time and I said, you know what, this is going to be a long video, so I might as well make a long video. Socials are in the description. Twitter, TikTok. I post TikTok, little updates on like celebrity stuff. My next astrology video is if you liked this video. I'm really only comfortable doing maybe like celebrity astrology or like event astrology. My next astrology video, if you want another BTS astrology video, it'll probably be June 13th, their anniversary, where I talk about their upcoming perfection year and upcoming transits, because they're going into a 7th house year, I think. Let me know if you want to see all of that, and thank you for watching. I love you.